Just under 24 hours ago, I had my very first Falling in Reverse live concert experience. Went downtown here in Nashville to Municipal Auditorium and saw the final date of the Rockzilla Tour, which was the big summer tour that was featuring Papa Roach, Falling in Reverse, Hollywood Undead, and Bad Wolves. And going into the show, I was most excited about seeing Falling in Reverse, and that's why we're focusing on that in this video, and because it was my first time seeing them. But going into the show, I had a lot of questions because I think it's no surprise or secret to anybody that is familiar with Falling in Reverse that their singer, Ronnie Radke, is the face of the band. It is his band. So I was really curious to see how that's going to translate to a live setting. Is this going to be treated like it's a band, Falling in Reverse's show, or is this just going to be the fucking Ronnie Radke show? And I'm not going to lie, that's what I was expecting. But you guys are probably thinking I'm just going to clickbait the shit out of you and you're going to have to sit here before you get the answer. But no, I'm going to tell you the answer right now. Fuck no. It was not just the Ronnie Radke show. And I was more than pleasantly surprised to see that. And I was blown away, to be honest. So for the rest of this video, I'm just going to walk you through my personal experience seeing them for the first time, talk to you about the show, talk to you about everything else that was going on, and hopefully leave you with some great reasons why you should absolutely go see this band if you ever get the chance to. So right when this tour was announced, I knew that I wanted to try and go see this show. It's a stacked lineup. Some of the other bands on this tour, bands that I've done shows with over the years working for other bands, so super excited. But life gets in the way sometimes. A couple days up to the show, I still didn't know if I was going to make it because we've got a lot of stuff going on at home and I'm prepping for a tour. But as luck would have it, one of my friends called me and I found out that he was doing monitors for Falling in Reverse. He stepped in as their monitor engineer towards the end of the tour and was like, dude, we're going to be in Nashville. Like, come out. And sometimes that's the only time that we get to see our other touring friends that we've made on the road, when their tour that they're on comes through our hometown or we go through their hometown. So I thought it was going to be a perfect excuse to go see a great show and to hang out with my buddy. And that's exactly what it turned out to be. So I take the 10-minute or so drive downtown from my house to Nashville Municipal Auditorium, which is a 9,700 capacity auditorium, big hall, and it's also the permanent location for the Musicians Hall of Fame and Museum. Super cool. And it's kind of like what I would describe as our secondary arena. Bridgestone Arena in town is where the NHL team plays, the Nashville Predators, and where a lot of the big shows go. But if that arena is not available or they want something half the size, most of the tours will go to the Municipal Auditorium. And I've seen quite a few shows there. Most recently, I saw Primus and Mastodon there. I saw the Slayer Farewell Tour there with Lamb of God and Behemoth. And I gotta be honest, it's a very difficult room to mix for audio engineers. Depending on where you are, the sound might not be that great because it's a big dome. So I've heard it sounding good, I've heard it sounding bad, and I was really curious how this was going to be at this show. So I get there at about 6 p.m. I meet up with my buddy who's doing monitors for Falling in Reverse, did our hugs, what's up, how you been, all that stuff. And then he walked me in, and it was about a couple minutes before Bad Wolves started. And to be 100% honest, I know who Bad Wolves is, but never really listened to him. I don't know if I'd ever heard any of their songs. But my buddy was like, dude, you have to go watch them. So I head out front. I stand right in the middle of the room in front of where the front of house consoles are, where they're mixing, because that's always your best bet at a show. If you want to hear the show perfectly how it's supposed to be, stand right in front of the audio engineers at front of house, because you're going to hear what they're hearing pretty much. And I gotta say, they sounded fantastic. And sometimes for opening bands, it is hard to get the crowd engaged because people are still filing in. It was only about a third full at that time. But Bad Wolves did fantastic for about the half of the set that I saw. At one point, I did go back and hang out with my buddy again because I haven't seen him in a while. But they definitely gained a fan in me enough that today I listened to a lot of their music. And they did have a very special moment in the set when they did their cover of Zombie, where the entire crowd lit up their phones. And I mean, it was an insanely loud crowd. So that was a super cool show. And then next up on the night was Hollywood Undead. But first, when the changeover was happening between Bad Wolves and Hollywood Undead, My buddy and I tried to set up my camera and do kind of like a quick little interview and run through his monitor gear and his console and all of his equipment. And to be honest, I still haven't looked at that footage yet because it was the first time I've ever tried to do anything on site with the new Rode microphones and the wireless stuff. So if anything cool came out of it, I'll probably include it in this video, but I may have screwed it up and it might not be that good, and we'll just have to have him on for a podcast or something to talk about what he's done, because he's done a lot of cool things. But back to Hollywood Undead. Now, I'm somewhat familiar with these guys. Way back in the day, like when they were first getting popular on MySpace, yeah, that long ago, my old band did a bunch of shows with them, and I remember it being super, super high energy, and the crowd was really into it. And I also remember them partying their goddamn faces off when we were backstage with them. But if I'm being 100% honest, I don't really know many of their songs and haven't really kept up with them past that first album that they ever released. So I was more curious to see their set than anything. So once again, I went right back out to front of house, and when they started, I watched probably the first 3/4 of their set before I kind of went back and hung with my buddy again. But I was actually blown away, and that's probably putting it really, really simple. Like, maybe it's been so long since I've seen them perform or have been up with their music or anything, but the best way to describe their set is just a fucking party, dude. I mean, from start to finish, nonstop, through the roof energy, and the crowd was super engaged, man. I mean, there were a lot of Hollywood Undead fans there because some of the crowd callbacks and the lyrics that were being sung along with, or the crowd were from the crowd, were so loud that it really made me stop and think, like, damn, I might have been like underestimating this band for years. Like, I didn't know how popular and relevant that they still were, but obviously they are. And one of the cool things that I found about their set that I don't remember was it almost made me think of a comparison to Walk Off the Earth, who I used to work for. And if anybody's not familiar with them, they're a band that is known for doing a lot of stuff live where they rotate and switch instruments. While they have specific people that play certain instruments, they trade off a lot. And that's kind of what was going on with Hollywood Undead. I think at one point, like, every singer in that band played guitar or bass or something else. They did have a permanent drummer. And I just thought that was super cool, man. It keeps the set fresh the whole time. It's super fun. And honestly, it like got me back into their music. You know, when you go see a live show and you see a band you haven't seen in a while, you just want to start listening to their discography again? That's pretty much what happened to me. Like, all day today, I've been listening to their other albums that I missed out on. And yeah, their music is just a party, dude. And while it might not be something that I listen to all the time, like on my own time, I would go see the show again because it was just so high energy and so entertaining to watch the crowd and them. And it was super cool, man. I'm glad I got to see them again after like 12 or 13 years. Now on to Falling in Reverse. And this is the main focus of this video. This is where I'm going to spend the most time, mostly because this was the band I was most excited to see. It was my first time seeing them. And honestly, it's because they blew me away so much that I want to give you those reasons why I think a lot of you should go see these guys live if you ever get the chance. So right when the changeover started from Hollywood Undead to Falling in Reverse, I, gave my buddy a hug, said, have a good show. I'm going to go out front and watch. So I go out to the front of house during the changeover. And there's this certain energy in a crowd that you can feel when a band is about to start, or that changeover between a band that everybody wants to see is happening. And no disrespect to any of the other bands on this tour whatsoever, but this was the band that everybody was there to see. You could feel it. You could feel it in the energy in that entire building. When Hollywood Undead's gear was off stage and you could start seeing some of Falling in Reverse's stuff up there, especially their backdrop. Well, it wasn't really a backdrop. It was like kind of a metal carving of their logo hanging on a chain, like with a black backdrop behind it. Really, really simple, cool look. But right when you could start to see that, you could just tell that everybody was like, let's fucking go, dude. Like, everybody was super pumped. More people started filing in. You get a lot of people at shows that are kind of stragglers. They hang out by the merch table or getting beers or whatever between bands and stuff. But everyone started piling in. And I was like, damn, this is going to be wild. Because as I said, I feel like everybody in that building, even if they were fans of the other bands, were really, really interested in seeing Falling in Reverse. So one of the things I noticed during this changeover, which is what gave me the impression like right away that I think this might be the Ronnie Radke show as opposed to a Falling in Reverse show, was during the changeover, the entire crowd started chanting Ronnie. Like, not Falling in Reverse, just Ronnie. So I was like, all right, well, I mean, he is the face of the band. Everybody knows that. And then I noticed that their crew was setting up risers on the downstage edge of the stage, which is the edge of the stage closest to the crowd. Upstage is the other way, behind where the drummers are. They were setting up risers, which is not uncommon because most of the time you see risers for bands, they're smaller. They're like 4 foot wide by a couple feet deep, placed in positions where they can just jump up really quick. We call those ego risers in the industry, just as a joke, you know, they can step up and be higher than everybody else. These were straight up drum risers, like 8 foot by 8 foot risers that were like 2 feet tall, placed all the way across the stage. And right there, I was like, damn, they're literally building a platform. Like Ronnie is going to be up there the whole night, and it's probably going to be all about him. Like there's going to be no focus on the band at all. It's going to be Ronnie. And that was, I mean, that was what I was thinking at the time. That's just full honesty. So when they were about to start, I kept looking at my watch and there was, you know, changeover music playing. And then all of a sudden one song cut short and then Enter Sandman by Metallica started playing. And like, that was right that moment where I was like, okay, this is the last song we're going to hear before they start. Because the stage was blacked out except for a spotlight on their logo on the stage. And then like the audience lights were on a little bit. And you could tell the crowd was getting fired up. Like everybody was singing along to Enter Sandman, still chanting Ronnie, stuff like that. So finally, lights go down. The first song they fucking open with, I would have never guessed this, was Zombified. One of the biggest bangers that they've released recently. That was a song I figured would be maybe not last, but towards the end of the set for sure. But they had this really cool intro where I couldn't hear exactly what was being said, but it was Ronnie's voice speaking and there were other noises and stuff going on. Big, huge, intense buildup. And then they started Zombified. And kind of what I thought, it was pretty much focused on Ronnie for the first song. Like the band walked out, they're in all black. Ronnie walks out in all white from head to toe, like oversized white shirt, white jeans, white sneakers. And the first thought I had in my head was like, this Andrew WK looking ass. But I will say it was a really good look. I loved the difference between like the band and Ronnie. But right when they start the song, he's up on the risers above everybody. And the band wasn't necessarily blacked out, but they didn't really have any focus on them during Zombified. It was definitely Ronnie. And, you know, right away in that first song, I got to admit, I was kind of blown away because I honestly thought that this show was going to be super vocal track heavy, as a lot of touring rock bands do nowadays, especially for maybe not the lead vocals. I'm not suggesting that bands are lip syncing, but there's a lot of harmonies and added backing vocals that are tracked. And it was fucking minimal, dude. Like minimal. I was shocked. Every player on stage, except for their drummer, Luke, had, and he might have had one, I don't know, but everybody had a microphone. Both guitarists, the bass player, they all had microphones in front of them. And I noticed right away, like, they were doing all the harmonies with them. They were not even just harmonies. Their bass player and guitar player on the stage left side were doing lead parts at sometimes, like intros to the pre-choruses to give Ronnie a quick breath to go into a chorus and stuff. Dude, you don't see that a lot anymore, man. Like I said, a lot of those parts are usually just tracked, but every single person on stage, with the exception of Luke, I think, was singing. And it wasn't just harmonies, like I said. I mean, there were parts of the set where their bass player was screaming parts that I would have thought would be reserved for Ronnie and a lot of other stuff. And it was super, super cool. So they finished Zombified. They go into the rest of the set. I'm going to check my notes really quick just so I can have the right information. So right after Zombified, the next 3 songs right in a row, I'm Not a Vampire, Losing My Mind, Raised by Wolves. Old school bangers, man. I mean, I'm Not a Vampire. Come on. Like, second song of the set. I mean, right when Luke started off, that drum beat that starts that song, like the whole crowd knew it. Like, they only needed 2 seconds of it. Everybody's going crazy. Everybody's losing their minds. And this was right there at that second song, I started really realizing like how good it really sounded. Like, super impressed by Ronnie's lead vocal ability in a live setting, man, because I don't know, maybe I'm a little jaded because I've worked in the music industry for so long, but in the studio you can make anything sound however you want. And then when you get to that live setting, sometimes people can't do that shit live. And Ronnie was spot on with everything. I got to give that to him. He was so fucking good, and all the other guys that were singing with them sounded so good. And this was about the time that it stopped being the Ronnie Radke Show and it started being about more of the band. Like, Ronnie was actively pointing out and naming the band members when they were doing solos and stuff like that and engaging with everybody else. And it was just so fucking cool for the next few songs to see what I thought was going to be all about Ronnie turn into the spectacle of just Falling in Reverse as a whole. Now, the next song in the set was Fuck You and All Your Friends. And I believe it was in this song. I can't remember if it was this one or Raised by Wolves. I think it was this one. Ronnie actually stopped the song like a minute in. Like, they were going full bore. The crowd was going crazy. And then I just hear Ronnie just stop. And everybody stopped. And I really have to credit him, and not just him, but his lighting director. Right when Ronnie said stop, the lighting director turned the crowd lights on full blast all the way up so you could see everything that was going on in the crowd. And apparently a girl in the crowd had passed out. And dude, for an LD to be on top of it that much, that's super pro move. That's one of those things that I notice being like a crew guy, a roadie, is like how other crew people handle situations like this. So for a lighting director to be that on top of it when an artist starts yelling stop during a song, that they turn on all the lights so everybody can see what's happening. Because if it's a medical emergency, you need those lights. I've been to shows where there have been medical emergencies in the crowd where the band on stage doesn't see it and they keep playing and there's not enough lighting for medical personnel and stuff like that. So that situation was handled so damn well that I really have to commend not only Ronnie for stopping the show and the band for kind of being quiet and letting things happen, but that LD for lighting everything up. And once everything was figured out, I think Ronnie had made a joke. Don't quote me, but I believe it was something along the lines of, save the passing out for somebody else's set or something like that. It's funny. The crowd got a good laugh, but they restarted the entire song over so everybody could just, feel the whole flow of it over again. So the next 3 songs of the set, The Drug in Me Is You, standard, not the reimagined one. Another one that is going to be a crowd favorite. And then the following song was Drugs. And that was a song that, I've gotten kind of familiar with because I am somewhat new to Falling in Reverse within like the past year and a half, 2 years or so. I always knew who they were, but I never dove into their music until now. And I was actually wondering when they got to the bridge in that song, how it was going to be handled, because Corey Taylor does the harsh vocals on the bridge on the studio version of that song. Ronnie did all of it and sounded fucking really good. Like, usually when you hear a band do the vocal part of somebody that was a guest on the track, you can hear a clear difference and everything. And obviously, while Ronnie is not Corey and they have different voices, the way that Ronnie delivered it was fucking spot on, dude. It was really, really, really good. And then going into Voices in My Head, current huge banger that they have out. Super impressed with that one in a live setting, especially when we started getting to the bridge and the breakdowns. And I think one thing I've failed to mention is during the whole set, Ronnie didn't stop moving. Back and forth the whole time across those risers, engaging every part of the crowd. And it was no different. At this point, we're 45 minutes into their set and he's still running back and forth like a madman, engaging people, engaging with the band. At one point, I think it was either right before this song or after the song, he even let Luke Holland take a drum solo and put the spotlight on him for a minute. And for good reason. Luke is a fucking monster drummer. And one other thing I forgot to bring up until now, which kind of blew my mind. I've done so many tours, thousands and thousands of shows over the years. And while you occasionally see some band members and crew members and stuff standing side stage for bands, you don't see everybody. And I realized at one point, I started moving around during Falling in Reverse's set. And at one point, around Voices in My Head, I came to the side of the stage over by my buddy's monitor console. The whole tour was there. Like every band member from the other bands standing side stage. you don't see that a lot, man. It was one of those moments where I was like, God damn. Like, I don't know if it's just because it's the last night of tour or what, or people just want to see the spectacle. But it's funny, I posted about it on Instagram, and one of my friends that works for another band that had done a festival with Falling in Reverse recently was like, dude, it was the same thing at the festival. It's like, half the people standing side stage were there to see Ronnie in the show. The other half were musicians that wanted to watch Luke Holland play drums. And then everybody else just wanted to see the show because the crowd is bonkers the whole time and stuff like that. So that speaks a lot about a band when every single person from the rest of the tour is standing side stage for a show, because that shit doesn't happen, man. So second to last song of their set, and I think this was my favorite moment of the entire night, because just the build up to this and the crowd participation and just how it was handled was just so fucking hilarious. At one point, Ronnie started talking to the crowd, and he goes, "Who here is or knows somebody that's an asshole?" And everybody raised their hands, and the band, funnily enough, the band, being funny, started pointing at each other and shit like that. It was, pretty awesome. And then he's like, "Keep your hands up if you're an asshole." And a lot of people did. And I think people knew because they were leading into a certain song. But before they started playing Just Like You, Ronnie starts like berating the crowd. And not because he was mad or upset, but because it was part of the shtick with playing Just Like You. But it was so funny, man, because it's like, I've never seen a guy like call a crowd a bunch of stupid motherfucking assholes, and the crowd be like, "Yeah, we're stupid motherfucking assholes." I mean, it was so funny. And then leading into Just Like You, I mean, it was one of the loudest crowd moments of the night at that point. Such a cool fucking song. And that's like, the musical variety and ability of this band that I just love, man. You can take some of those older Falling in Reverse songs that are straight up rock. I mean, dude, the intro to Just Like You with those, na 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 parts, like, it sounds like fucking Queen to me, dude. Like, it's just such a good rock song, and it was really fun. And then there was a moment after that where Ronnie again was joking with the crowd, and he said, something along the lines of, "What if that was our last song of the night? What if we decided to just stop right now? Like, perfect song to do that on." He's like, "All right, bye everybody." And the whole crowd like started cheering, and he goes, something like, "Why the fuck are you cheering?" He's like, "I want to hear some boos." And the whole crowd was booing, and like, just the engagement from a frontman to a crowd with that is just so wild. And then there was something said that I feel like I might be overthinking, and Ronnie probably meant nothing by it. But I was like, damn. He was thanking the crowd, and he goes, there's a lot of bands, that tour and stuff, that they're stuck closing their show with super old songs that they cranked out early on in their career, and they have nothing newer that's bigger. So they got to play these old songs last every night, but we don't have to do that. Thanks to you guys for streaming all of our new music and stuff like that. And right away it hit me. I was like, Hollywood Undead just closed with one of their first singles they ever released. Papa Roach is probably going to close with the first single they ever released. And I was like, is he taking a dig at these other bands? And again, I'm probably massively overthinking this because I've seen that, Ronnie and Jacoby are hanging out and stuff. But it was one of those funny moments where, just as somebody in the industry, I was like, like, I wonder if there is something behind this, but probably not. But anyways, on to the last song, Popular Monster, and probably for good reason. I think it's, without looking, it's the most streamed song on Falling in Reverse Spotify and stuff like that. And this was, again, one of those moments where I realized, like, this was not the Ronnie Radke Show, because so many of the other members in this song had stuff going on. Like, when we got to that massive breakdown in the bridge where there's a lot of screaming going on and stuff like that, like, their bass player did one of the whole parts of the bridge screaming. And rather than Ronnie do it, he just stopped and like pointed at his bass player while he did it. So all the attention was on him. And I thought that was super fucking cool. And again, like, that's stuff that sometimes might be tracked by a lot of other bands, but it wasn't, man. I'm kind of sitting here thinking about it now, like, still just kind of fucking baffled, because I mean, you don't see that often these days. But The show ended incredibly. The crowd was so fucking loud at that point, man. And, you know, after they were done, the band got center stage and they took a picture and stuff like that. And they walked off stage. And for anybody wondering, no, I didn't get to meet the beef castle that is Ronnie Radke. I was just there hanging with a friend. And, you know, at a lot of these shows, being somebody that's toured, like, I don't overstep my boundaries, man. I was invited by my friend. I know my place. I'm just going to stand out of the way and check out. I'm not there to try and hang out with people. I just went to go enjoy a good show. And when Falling in Reverse finished, I'm not going to lie, I gave my friend a hug, told him I loved him, said, dude, I hope to see you soon. And I had to go home. I think I saw Papa Roach's opening song. And I don't necessarily feel bad because over the years, I've probably seen Papa Roach at least 30 or 40 times because I've done shows with them and I've seen them at festivals and stuff. And for those of you that watch a channel, I've got a little girl at home. I didn't want to leave my wife alone for like 5 or 6 hours with her. So I did leave right when Papa Roach started and missed pretty much, well, I did miss their entire set. But I heard from a lot of friends that were there that it was also really, really good. So I just looked and saw that I just talked about the Falling in Reverse show for 20 fucking minutes, and I'm probably just gonna wrap this up here so I don't keep you guys any longer and bore you anymore. If I did, I'm sorry, but hopefully, I mean, I expressed well on how good this fucking show was, dude, because I've been telling everybody that I've been talking to all day, like, it was so much more than I expected, and I'm so blown away by the performance that they put on and how big they're getting and stuff like that. I mean, it really is cool to see, man. I mean, I really do think for years down the line from right now, you're going to see Falling in Reverse as one of the big touring and premier rock bands in like the radio rock and metal industry, dude. And to everybody that was a part of this tour, excellent job, man. I mean, I know this was the last night of the tour and it was probably pretty strenuous because there were a lot of dates on this, but this was just from start to finish, from the time I was there, it was just a killer fucking show, man. And it's not often that I go to a show where I think the entire lineup was completely stacked with awesome bands. There's always maybe one or two that I'm like, whatever. But this was awesome. I mean, it got me into Bad Wolves. It got me back into Hollywood Undead. And it really made me like 10 times more of a Falling in Reverse fan than I already am because they just knocked it out of the fucking park, dude. That's the best way to put it. And I really did realize this is not the Ronnie Radke show that I thought it was. This is fucking Falling in Reverse, dude. And I hope that I made you guys excited. And like I said, dude, if you ever get the opportunity to go see these guys, I would highly recommend it because if you don't, you are missing out on a fucking show, dude. So thank you guys so much for watching. There's a lot of shows that I plan on going to before I head back out on tour with Electric Callboy. Later this month, I'm going to take a drive to Knoxville and see Orbit Culture and Fit for an Autopsy. That one, I will bring my camera. I will have footage because they've already told me that I can. And then early next month, I'm getting to see Sabaton and Epica. Another one I will bring my camera to because they've already told me I can. Hopefully I'll have some cool footage. And I really hope that if I do any of these concert reviews and experiences in the future, that I do have more of my own footage and more, stuff to share with you guys more than just stories. But I hope that you enjoyed this story this time. To those of you that are coming back to the channel and always supporting it, thank you so very much. If you're new, feel free to click subscribe. I do a lot of reactions, industry talk. I'm going to start doing these reviews. And then when I head on tour, I'm going to have behind the scenes vlogs and day in the life of a guitar tech type stuff. So would love to see you in the future. I'm also on a ton of different social media. I have a Discord server. I have a Twitch that I stream on. So if you're interested in any of that kind of stuff, I will throw links in the description below. Thank you so very much for watching. Wherever you are in the world, be safe, be kind to each other, and I'll see you guys very soon.